Thanks for joining us and being part of this project. Let's get started. Can you tell me who are you and what do you do?
My name is Susan, and I'm the co-founder and executive director of a not-for-profit organization called College Path LA.
So the not-for-profit has a social agenda that they're working towards. What is the purpose of your not-for-profit College Path Los Angeles?
Our goal is to mobilize, bring together the community to support students as they apply for college and as they explore careers.
What does the executive director do? What does your job title mean?
I think for me, the most important thing I do is develop programs. And the question I always have is, how do we make this program meet the needs of more students?
What was the driving force that prompted you to want to start your own not-for-profit organization and tackle these issues of education?
You know, I started out my career as a teacher, and I taught in a school for girls who had been suspended for one reason or another from their neighborhood school. And so they came to us pretty defeated, pretty angry, without any confidence in themselves, really. And as I taught them, and at that time I was teaching them history, but it really didn't matter. As a teacher, you teach to the kid anyway. But as I was teaching them, I realized so many of these kids were really, really smart. In fact, they had a lot of what I would call street smarts. They learned how to navigate their neighborhoods in ways I certainly never could have myself at their age. So I began to see these really, really, really smart, capable of kids, but they had absolutely no confidence in themselves, not at all. And so I realized the importance of adults in their lives. I realized that as a teacher, I could make a difference in their lives by kind of mirroring back to them who they could become. So I saw the power of education. And so later in life, when I had an opportunity to start this not-for-profit organization, College Path LA, I just ran to it because I wanted to be able to bring that kind of support to students who, like the students I taught those many years ago, needed adults to show them who they were. A lot of the students at the high school that we started at were our first generation students who, while they may have parents who have gone to college themselves, and many do, that parents didn't know how to help them. There were too many students in a classroom. The college counselor, as wonderful as she is, was overwhelmed. So I thought, what if we bring together people in our neighborhood who could function like I functioned with those students and sit down with students and begin to mirror back to them who they could become in life. And so that's really the inspiration to me, was those early years as a teacher, looking at potential that was not met.
Did you go to school for that? Is there like a degree that you got to make that happen?
So actually, some people do follow that route. There is a degree in nonprofit management. That's not the route I took. Many women in my generation, honestly, was pretty much like this. But when I reflect back on this, I think I took from each thing I did skills that then prepared me for this. So as a teacher, I learned how a school works. I learned how an organization should and could work with a school. I learned how to win over teachers and administrators. That's a huge, huge thing when you're bringing an organization into a school. And I had some credibility with the other teachers because I had been a teacher myself. And I went to journalism school and I got a master's degree in journalism. And so I became a writer. And so I learned how to write proposals in a very simple way. So writing skills are important in every job, as it turns out. And then I worked for another not-for-profit educational organization, and that is really where I think I educated myself in how a nonprofit works. And I worked there for 15 years, and I ran programs, and I created budgets, and I supervised people. And I learned the things that I needed to know in order to run my own not-for-profit. So I think all together, all of those skills from those various times in my life kind of brought me to this place where I was able to start this not-for-profit in London.
What kind of advice would you have for a young person right now who's possibly interested in becoming an executive director of a not-for-profit, or even just wanting to work in the not-for-profit world?
So when I think about myself when I was 17, I was one of these pretty angry but very political students. Not all that different from the students that actually taught my very first teaching job. So when I think about myself then, I think, could I become the executive director for a not-for-profit? And I think what I would have said to myself and what I would say to other students is, if you have a passion, you need to have a real passion for something, whether it's education, the environment, healthcare, poverty, hunger, whatever that is, you have to really feel strongly about it. Because the thing about being an executive director is that you wake up thinking about it and you go to bed thinking about it. And every person you meet at a market or in any store, you grab them and you say, hey, do you want to be a part of what I do? And so you're always building. So I would say the first thing is passion. On a practical level, and this pretty much goes honestly for any kind of job that you think you might want, you have to meet people in that job, and you have to volunteer for that job, or you have to get an internship. You have to know that this is really what you want, and not be afraid to ask questions, not be afraid to make suggestions, but really throw yourself into it. That's the only way you'll know if you will see yourself doing that kind of job. And then I guess the last thing I would say to someone who's 17 is, everything you do in life is going to teach you something. And so you want to figure out what you're being taught at that. Now, as a teacher, I learned about how to work with schools. At a nonprofit, I learned how one worked. As a journalism student, I learned how to write clearly and concisely. You want to go through life and learn as much as you can, and take that with you to whatever you end up doing. So I think that's an important lesson to think about. Everything you do matters in life.
Well, that's a good place to wrap up. I think that's great advice. Thank you very, very much for being part of this. And I think everything you said is going to help somebody decide on their own career paths. So thanks for doing this.
Thank you.